And what is up, everybody? Okay, just finished reading the post by BJ Penn, and apparently, this past Friday, it was announced that uh, Bellator in February is going to be having, another event, and in the fight, you got the co-main event, which is Kimbo Slice versus Dada 5000, and Ken Shamrock versus Hoist Gracie for the third time. I can't believe that they're doing this. First off, as far as like Kimbo versus Dada 5000, all right. I spoke about I already did my review on the movie Dogfight, and how basically I thought how stupid it was. On top of that, and it was like I understood the reason why guys were getting into street fighting, and at the time where Kimbo was coming up, MMA wasn't as prominent as it is now. So now if you're a street, there's no reason for you to be a street fighter, because you just go to any MMA gym, you let them know, it's like, look, man, I don't have it. Like, look, man, I don't have any money. It's like, get me a fight. I don't have any money. Please, I got you could work. They'll work with you, even if it means even if it means losing that fight, and just so you can pay them back later. You could always work. You could always work something out. There's never an excuse. And then the fact that I've seen Kimbo train, I've seen Dada 5000 train. Kimbo is in way better shape. Not to mention the fact that he's like undefeated 7-0 in professional boxing. On top of that, so that's the first issue I have. Second, I've been I went on 2 different rants for both Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie 3, but I wanted them to have it in Metamoris, because this was before Ken Shamrock decided to fight Kimbo finally, and obviously this is way before this. The reason why it would have been better in Metamoris is because it's just grappling. Both of these guys are entirely too old to be taking any form of real punishment. That would have forced the both of them to try to really use more technique than anything. Something that Ken Shamrock was always, I want to say, almost always lacking, was the fact that he would just overpower guys all the time. If you watch the documentary Bound by Blood about Frank Shamrock, and basically in comparison to the two, yes, for initiation into the Lion's Den, can beat the living snot out of Frank, but overall Frank was always a more technical fighter than Ken ever was. And that being said, it would have forced Ken to be into a technique match, to which Hoist Gracie probably would have won, and it would have been better off because of the huge weight difference between the two of them. See, back in the day when it was no holds barred, it didn't matter. So now you have in the Texas Athletic Commission saying, okay, it's an open weight. I didn't think Bellator to be so desperate. I'm serious. They have to be desperate to be doing something like this. Okay, when they did the first time in a long time 4-man in 1 night tournament, understandable. I missed that old format. And I wanted to see King Mo versus Phil Davis. I wanted to see that. King Mo had to pull out. Okay, fine, whatever. Phil Davis won, like I thought he would. So for him to get the #1 contender spot, okay, great. That's how UFC was doing it after UFC 12 anyway. So if they were going to do that more often, that would have been a little bit more exciting to see. But they pulled that out of almost nowhere, because I guess they're not getting enough attention, and they're pulling all these former UFC stars, and it's frustrating to see these guys obviously turn and go in a completely different direction, regardless of how much money that they're being offered. It's not the same level of competition. Prime example, the fact that Phil Davis won that tournament. Phil Davis was on top, was in one of the top light heavyweights. For him to have to leave so he could finally win a championship. Well, granted, good on him. Okay, more power to him. Personally, I think he can win that light heavyweight title too. And giving Tito that title shot, okay, fine. They always did stuff in a tournament format, which is something I always respected. The 4-man in 1 night tournament, okay, great, but to do this now, you've broken away from the whole tournament format. Because Tito wasn't in the tournament. You gave him a title shot. He only won 2 fights. Rampage won 3 fights. That's pretty. And actually won the light heavyweight tournament, and you didn't give him a title shot. What the hell sense does that make? So now you got this going on. It's probably going to be free. Granted, everybody's gonna watch it, but Royce Gracie is too old, and Ken Shamrock is way too old. Granted, I was shocked he was able to do as well as he did against Kimbo. Okay, seriously. And I figured that's what he would have to do to win. And basically he said he thought Kimbo tapped out and made the mistake of letting go. All right? Understandable. Totally understandable. And basically Kimbo was able to turn around and ultimately knock him out, which I knew was going to happen. So, okay. Is he in good shape? Yes, he's definitely in good shape. He's definitely a lot more technical than he was the first couple times he fought Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie, on the other hand, has never necessarily stopped training. He has been, after his fight with Sakuraba, that supposedly he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, which is bogus, because, whatever. It was like as tiny as that man is. Oh, he tested positive for anabolics. Yeah. Okay. So that being said, what winds up happening is all this time he's done nothing but train and teach and train constantly. And when I told Royce Gracie's people, oh yeah, he should do this fight in Metamoris because Henzo just had his rematch with Sakuraba, in Metamoris, and Euler had his rematch with Eddie Bravo in Metamoris. So, okay, do Gracie versus Shamrock 3 in Metamoris. That'd be perfect. You don't have to worry about getting punched. But they said, oh yeah, he wants to get back into MMA fighting, which I thought was dumb. And then the fact that Ken Shamrock, signs with Bellator to fight Kimbo, I was like, I don't think that's a good idea, but whatever. And but at the same time, I said this in another post that I did, is that who am I or who is anybody to say that somebody can't fight? This is something they've dedicated their entire life into, their livelihood into, made a lot of money doing it on top of that. And then who are we to say that, oh yeah, you can't do it anymore? Granted, will they ever be the greatest again? Absolutely not. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. I can almost guarantee Randy Couture will never win a UFC title again. If he decides to come back tomorrow, he will never win another UFC title. Same thing with Ken Shamrock. Same thing with Royce Gracie. They will never be on top. Will they win championships anywhere else? Who knows? Who knows? 100% possible. But it's not up to us to say that whether or not that they could keep doing it. Personally, I don't think they should have done it here. I thought they should have done it in Metamoris. Metamoris should have tried to sign him. Should have tried to sign him. It would have been a lot more interesting and especially helped build Metamoris as an organization. But Metamoris, basically just brushed it off immediately. Bellator signed it, and to be perfectly honest, for Bellator to do this, like I said, this is a circus act. It's a marketing stunt. Is it going to work? Yeah, but mind you, this is free television. It's not like with pay-per-views. UFC now, because granted they got so many shows, it's so hard to keep up with these people now. Well, come February, we'll see what happens. Obviously somehow, some way, I'm gonna watch the fight. I think I'm not sure. It might wind up similar to Shamrock versus Gracie 2, where Royce Gracie's on the ground the whole time, and Ken Shamrock's just punching him. And if that's the case with points and everything, then Ken Shamrock would win. Because technically, to be perfectly honest, Ken Shamrock won that fight. If there was judges, Ken Shamrock definitely won that fight. First fight, obviously, Royce Gracie had it. He had the gi. Are they going to let Royce Gracie fight with a gi again? I don't know. Last couple fights Royce Gracie had, he wasn't wearing a gi. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see, regardless of how I feel or anybody feels about it. Kimbo versus Dada. I'm back in Kimbo. No ifs, ands, or buts behind Kimbo 100%. Kimbo's a hell of a lot more technical. Has a lot more experience than Dada. Dada's whatever grudge he has with Kimbo or anything like that doesn't necessarily matter. It doesn't necessarily matter. Dada is sloppy. Dada is watching his MMA debut. His cardio's garbage. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm just giving it to Kimbo. I can almost guarantee that Kimbo's gonna win this fight. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.